Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of The Bottom Line. As always, I'm joined by my co host here, Syed. As always, we have a very special episode for all of you today. So, as usual, we're going to kick things off with our tech update. Following our tech update, I actually wanted to get into an important subject matter, which is stagflation. So, I don't know if our viewers are familiar with that term or seen
I
it
don't know
being
what
bounced
that
around.
is. I don't know what that is, so
Perfect.
I'm looking forward
Perfect.
to it.
Perfect. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what stagflation is and what it could mean for our economy if it were to happen. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to dive into the world of cryptocurrency. So there's a lot happening in cryptocurrencies, as you can see. It bounced a lot over the last, I'd say, week or so, and currently is experiencing a little bit of a pullback, but these fluctuations are normal as we know in the world of cryptocurrencies. But that being said, we do have a few things to talk about. One being cryptocurrencies being utilized more and more for vacation getaways for the Gen Zers out there. Also, there a way to mine Bitcoin tax-free inside an IRA? There's actually been a scheme that they've discussed,
Wow.
but there's speculation that I won't pass through. But we'll see. I wanted to talk about that with our viewers just so that they know what that is. And I know, Said, that you wanted to talk a little bit about Bitcoin miners, specifically how they're moving away from China, for example, and into places like Paraguay, where there's
Yeah.
more friendly legislation for them. And we're also going to talk a little bit more about changes coming up to know your clients, so KYC for crypto, especially by the EU. But a lot of exchanges are implementing stricter regimes or regulations, I should say, for KYC. So you'll talk a little bit more about that. And as always, we're going to end things off with stock picks or a recap from our previous stock picks and our stock picks for the upcoming trading week. So lots to cover. With that being said, the floor is yours for our tech update.
Thank you, Deepak, for the introduction. Hope everyone is doing well. In regards to tech and infosec news, there's a lot to cover over the past 2 weeks, but I tried to narrow it down to the more important stuff that our viewers would care about. So let's get started. First, from just today, August 1st, the Justice Department is saying that Russians hacked federal prosecutors. So the Russian hackers were behind the massive SolarWinds cyber espionage campaign, right? And now based on that, like the department saying that 80% of Microsoft email accounts used by employees in the 4 U.S. attorney offices in New York were breached. So yeah, I'll put the article in the description if you want to read more, but it just goes on this to inform everybody what exactly got hacked and where the hack happened. So Los Angeles, there were several offices that were impacted too, such as in Los Angeles, Miami, Washington, and the Eastern District of Virginia. So yeah, feel free to read that. It'll be in the description below. Moving on, we're going to talk about a Trojan called Vultur, and it's abusing Android banking accessibility services. This is a newly discovered Trojan that relies on screen recording and key logging instead of HTML overlays for capturing the login credentials, according to security research at Threat Fabric. So it's dubbed Vultur, so VULTUR, and it was first identified in March 2021, and the malware gains full visibility into the victim device through the use of VNC, which is essentially known as virtual network computing implementation from Alpha VNC. And the remote access to the VNC server on the device is provided through something called NGRock. So basically, which leverages secure tunnels to expose to the internet endpoints located behind the NATs and the firewalls. So I won't get more in detail there, but essentially this was interesting, and especially for Android users. So keep an eye out on this, and I'll keep you guys updated on what this, if there's any more research being done on this Trojan, and like if there's more developments, and if this Trojan's being leveraged. More on Russia. So their APT29 is still actively delivering malware used in COVID-19 vaccine spying. So this was the APT29 group is basically a Russian cyber espionage group, and they're known as APT29, or they're also known as Cozy Bear. They're actively delivering a piece of malware named Wellness despite the fact that the malware was exposed in detail last year by Western governments. So WAMS, also known as Wellmail, is a lightweight piece of malware that enables its operators to execute shell commands and also upload and download files on the compromised or victim system, right? And the malware was first described in 2018 when it was spotted in attacks aimed at Japanese organizations. But at the time, it was not linked to a specific threat actor. But now, obviously, it's linked to Russia's APT29. And that was actually attributed to Russia's APT29 in 2020 because the United States were like, the United Kingdom, and Canada were like, it's being used by Russian hackers in an attack aimed at the academic and pharmaceutical research institutions involved in the coronavirus or COVID-19 vaccine development. So yeah, APT29 is still back, is still at it, delivering malware, and it's basically using, they're basically spying on vaccine developments. So yeah, interesting article. Be sure to check it out. Once again, link will be in the description down below. Moving on, we're going to move to China now. So there's a new Chinese threat group called GhostEmperor that's targeting governments and telecom firms. Won't get into too much detail, but it's a previously undocumented Chinese-speaking threat actor, which is targeting Microsoft, exchange vulnerabilities in an attempt to compromise high-profile victims. And it's tracked as GhostEmperor, and it's a long-running operation focused on targets in Southeast Asia and uses a formerly unknown Windows kernel mode rootkit. And it employs a loading scheme that relies on a component of the cheat engine open source project, which allows it to bypass the Windows driver signature enforcement mechanism, and it deploys a rootkit. So I won't go into more detail there, but if you're interested, be sure to check out the article. Every time we check tech news or security news, we see China and the Western countries going back and forth with cyber warfare. So just another development there. I still have more to cover here. So with the help of Google, impersonated Brave.com websites are pushing malwares. So I found this interesting because scammers have been caught using a clever sleight of hand to impersonate the website for Brave browser and using it in Google Ads to push malware and take controls of browsers and steal sensitive data. So what they're doing is that the attack is working by registering the domain XN and then 2 dashes and then BRAV-YVA and then a square bracket and then a period in between, a closing square bracket.com, and then an encoded string that uses what's known as a phony code to represent the Brave.com. So they're trying to make the link the Brave.com link appear legitimate, and this is one of the ways to social engineer, right? You create a fake domain that looks like, so I could do like Google with an accent on the .com, and people would think that's Google, right? And I'll redirect them to my own server. So basically that's what they're doing. So here they're just using they're using special characters such as square brackets or periods, right? And then that name is then displayed in the browser address bar, and it's confusing people because they think it's Brave.com. Oh, let's click on it, let's navigate to it, and then people basically download the Brave browser using this fake link, and basically it's a almost perfect replica of the Brave.com domain, as I mentioned before. It's just a really, really smartly crafted social engineering tactic. And basically what it's doing is, like, when you download the thing, the fake Brave browser from this website, right, it'll inject the malware into your system, and you drive onto the fake site, the scammers bought ads on Google that was displayed when people search for things involving browsers. So the ads look legit enough, right? They look really legitimate. And as the images below in this article show, and I'll provide the link in the description. I'll also share it on your screen. You'll be able to see it. The domain are going to show an ad for this domain, and it's gonna be a site that sells apparel for professionals. So basically, These social engineers are really smart, and they're basically tricking people into downloading Brave.com, but it's actually not Brave.com. It's a fake link, and it's gonna inject your system with malware. So I thought this was interesting because I know a lot of people are looking into Brave browser and all that because it's secure. But I guess social engineers are taking advantage of that and putting out fake links. Um, Moving on to more cyber warfare. So a few episodes back, I mentioned how Iran had a cyber attack on their train system. So Israel basically believes that Iran's retaliating, and they struck a ship in response to that cyber attack. So once again, you can read more on that. I'll put the article in the description below. And then I have Zoom. They settled a U.S. class action privacy lawsuit for $86 million. So the lawsuit allegedly alleged that Zoom had invaded the privacy of millions of users by sharing personal data with Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. It also accused Zoom of misstating that it offers end-to-end encryption for failing to prevent hackers from Zoom bombing sessions. But the firm denied it, obviously, of any wrongdoing, but has agreed to boost its security practices. So once again, link will be in the description. It's from bbc.com. You can read that to learn more. And I found this one funny, but thought I'd mention in the tech update. But there's Elon Musk was back at it on Twitter, and there's an article on it on bbc.com. But he basically said that I don't want to be the CEO of anything. So I found that quite hilarious because he's kind of like Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was in office, every type of communication that Donald Trump did was through Twitter, and Elon Musk is just like that. So it's funny just looking at his Twitter and him tweeting this stuff like that. I don't know if he's trolling or what, but I found this funny, so I thought I'd include this in there. But this BBC article basically analyzes his tweet and what he actually means, what Elon Musk actually means by this tweet. But yeah, be sure to check that out. Chinese company Didi, which is basically a ride hauling giant, they've denied a report that it was considering going private to appease Chinese authorities. So as a result of that, its share has soared by almost 50% in Thursday's pre-market trade after the Wall Street Journal report. So since making its U.S. Market debut a month ago, the company has been targeted by authorities in Beijing. So again, you see the Chinese-U.S. war in this, right? Warfare in this, but thought I mentioned this in the tech update briefly because I wouldn't be surprised if cyber criminals have Didi as a potential target, because normally like how what happens is behind like a cyber attack is that like companies that are like being targeted by governments, hackers also have them in their mind, right? And that's why I think Didi has to be on top of their security games too. On top of their security game too. I know they're dealing with like this political thing, but they also have to stay secure and make sure that their systems aren't compromised. Make sure that security is still a top priority for them, even when they're stuck in between this warfare, this political warfare. So that's why I thought I mentioned this. And then there's another anti-5G campaign going on that I'll post the article about, but essentially there's a group that has raised more than 160,000 pounds, and it said it will continue to battle to try to obtain a judge review basically of 5G, and like they want to stop 5G deployment in the EU and in the UK. But yeah, you can read more about that in the article. And then last one, I know all of our viewers probably use WhatsApp, but they had an update rollout just today. I mean, last night or today. I don't know if everyone got it yet or not, but basically update it, and on your iPhone it'll feel like a new app basically. Where you can do like group video calls and stuff like that. It'll feel like you're using iMessage. So yeah, thought I'd let our viewers know about that, and I'll have more for you all next week in more security and tech news.
All right, so thanks so much, Syed, for that tech update. I'm sure our viewers appreciate all the effort that you put into them each and every week. So thanks again for that. And now we're going to move on to an important segment that I wanted to specifically talk about this week, and that's stagflation. So for those that don't know, stagflation is really characterized by three components, I'd say. So the first is high inflation, right? Um, High inflation is something that's really been a concern in our economy for the last little while, and we've seen in CPI reports over the last few months, especially, that they're up significantly year over year, right? And really, I think it's safe to say that we can characterize this period as a period of high inflation, and whether or not you believe it's transitory or not, I guess that's subjective. But again, like, the inflation element is there, right? The other thing is stagnating growth, right? So before we actually were in a period where every company was announcing blowout earnings and everyone was very euphoric, everyone was optimistic. But one thing that really stood out to me last week in particular was Amazon. So you saw in Amazon's earnings, they actually slowed down quite significantly. They far underperformed what investors expected they do, and as a result, their stock was down about 7.5%. And really, for a giant like Amazon to lose 7.5% of its market cap, that's something scary to me, right? And that's something that really should strike you as an investor and say, okay, wow, is there something fundamentally changing in the market? And to me, I don't want to jump the gun here, but it does suggest that there might be a broad slowdown in earnings for a lot of the major companies, right? And we are well into earnings season right now. Again, these earnings are for the previous quarter, so obviously some companies will have a great quarter, others might show signs of more stagnant growth, like Amazon did, right? So I think it will take time for it to trickle into earnings reports, maybe next quarter, maybe the quarter after that. But I do think that the general trend is that there is a slowdown in at least the rate of growth for a lot of these large corporations. And then the other element here is a higher rate of unemployment. So for the last little while, you've kind of seen the monthly job reports come out. Sometimes they're very good, sometimes they're very bad. And really the market's been reacting accordingly. So I think July's report, which is going to come out, I think, at some point this week, is going to be really a telltale story of where we're at. So we already have the first element, like I said, of inflation. We already have stagnating growth. And now if you couple that with a higher rate of unemployment that we can see trending into the fall, especially as this whole Delta variant starts to manifest, and we got to see if there's another lockdown. There's been some speculation about that coming in the States due to the vaccination slowing down as well, whether or not they're going to have to lock people down. I know they've already implemented the indoor mask policies again in a lot of states. So really, these are three key pillars of stagflation. And you've already seen two out of the three, I'd say, and you might see all three coming up soon. And if that's the case, then I think it's fairly straightforward to say, okay, we might actually be facing a period of stagflation. And what happens in periods of stagflation? Well, first of all, equities don't do nearly as good as they have in the past. So 2020 was clearly a banner year for the stock market, especially the S&P. From its March lows, rebounded astronomically, really, by broad index standards. And now if you enter this period of stagflation, you're actually going to see below the typical average return for the S&P, which I believe is at 7% a year. I think really we're headed towards now is, if this trend continues, we're going to have many years of I'd say at least 3 to 4 years of really almost no growth, right? And that's going to hurt the economy quite significantly, especially as coronavirus continues to be in and around us, right? In our everyday lives, still affecting us to this day, even a year and a half later. So I think these are three pillars that we really have to monitor. And like I've said in previous episodes, you always got to have a macro view of the economy, and investing in particular, that becomes very crucial, because no matter which company you're quote unquote bullish on, if the broad indices aren't doing as well, then there just won't be enough buying pressure for your stock to perform well. So definitely keep an eye out on these things. Keep an eye out on the earnings reports as they continue to trickle in, both this quarter, next quarter, and the quarters beyond. And also keep an eye out on the rate of inflation, because rate of unemployment, I should say, because inflation, I personally think, is here to stay. It's the other two elements that we have to continue to monitor to see whether we're truly in a period of stagflation or really it's just a blip in the radar and it's onward and upward. So I just wanted to give our viewers a little bit more of an understanding of what this term is, because I've seen it being used by a lot of economists on Wall Street. And I felt it's my responsibility to share a little bit more of that insight with you all. All right, so moving on to the world of cryptocurrency side, I know you have a lot to talk about there as well, so I'm not going to take as much of the time here, but I wanted to share a couple of articles on CNBC. So the first one is cryptocurrency is taking off as a way to pay for those vacation getaways. So more travel suppliers are actually starting to accept Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and other cryptocurrencies, and Gen Z and other and younger Gen Alpha travelers will drive crypto acceptance going forward, as industry players are seemingly suggesting. And actually, this website called Travala.com accepts 50 cryptocurrencies and has structured its new home sharing network on a blockchain-like decentralized platform. So it's really interesting because this article really talks about different websites that are accepting it, and another one is airfare website cheapair.com, which is a Latvian carrier, Air Baltic and Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, which have long accepted Bitcoin. And then Berlin-based tours and activity booking site Get Your Guide has started taking Dogecoin processed via BitPay in June as part of its expansion into the US. And really, a lot of the CEOs here's a quote from one of the CEOs. So cryptocurrency transactions will really matter for travel. And his firm is looking at accepting other coins going forward, said Johannes Reck, CEO and co-founder of Get Your Guide. People want to put their crypto back into the system, and travel is one of the biggest categories there is. We take Dogecoin now into the real world. You can apply it and actually get a real world kinetic experience, right? And one of the criticisms in the past was actually not being able to use cryptocurrencies for something tangible, right? And that whole thing changed when Tesla, for example, started accepting Bitcoin. That drove the price up so much higher. Now you're seeing the tourism players come in and say, okay, we'll accept these cryptocurrencies as payment. Now you have these Gen Zers or the Gen Alphas that are holding their Dogecoin, saying, okay, let me use this to buy a plane ticket or to pay for a hotel, right? So I think what they're doing now is, especially these hospitality industries, which are looking to get back on their feet, they're trying to accept cryptocurrency as a way of entering a new market, right? It's really a new demographic because the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas weren't really historically booking hotels pre-COVID, right? Especially the Gen Alphas, they're just getting around that age where they start traveling. So it's really targeting that new market or that new segment. And again, like the more commercialized these cryptocurrencies get, ultimately, that's good for the price action as well, right? So Travala.com is another one I just mentioned. I think they were actually looking at Expedia as well, which initially did accept Bitcoin, but I think it had stopped in 2018. But then other travel websites opened up and said, hey, we'll take it on. So I would look to Expedia to potentially start accepting it as well. And given how big Expedia is in that online booking space, that could be a seemingly large announcement that could come, which would, again, affect price substantially.
For sure, yeah, and you mentioned those, and there's also I think 2 months ago in May, or I think it was July or June or May, I also saw an article and I posted about it on our social media about real estate in New York, a real estate company accepting crypto. I believe it was Ethereum, Bitcoin, and also Dogecoin. And then there's also a restaurant in the UK that accepts Bitcoin payment, Ripple payment, Ethereum payment, and I believe Doge is on the list too. So as you can see, right, like they're these companies are trying to get crypto as an acceptable payment method, and you see that with countries too, right? Those countries that are making Bitcoin and other cryptos are legal tender, right? The countries in Africa, Paraguay, all those countries. So just goes to show where we're headed.
Yeah, it's just again, retail is looking to adopt it more and more, and the institutions are stepping in, and corporations are helping to facilitate that. So again, it's an exciting time to be a crypto investor, I'd say. despite this pullback. But it's good to see it getting mainstream adoption. That's for sure.
All right. Thank you, Deepak, for your crypto updates. But for my crypto updates, I just wanted to mention I'm referring to an article, and as always, it'll be in the description below. I wanted to talk about the European Commission, how they're kind of doing a crypto know your client thing on exchanges. So in summary, exchanges would be obligated to report suspicious transfer to an unhosted wallet. A transfer from your wallet to an exchange would not be accepted without know your client. And whether the proposal will make it through the legislative process remains to be seen. But the European Commission says that it's not targeting non-custodial crypto wallets. Their new set of legislative proposal would still affect such users in the whole nascent sector. So yeah, this article goes in depth, and basically it talks about like the scope of this, and like if it applies to peer-to-peer transfers of crypto assets, or like just general transfers to like an unhosted wallet. But yeah, you can read more about this. I'm not going to go into too much depth because I'll just carry on this segment, but I thought I would refer to this article for our viewers to read more into this, because this is definitely an issue that we see with cryptocurrency, right? And one of the reasons why Binance got banned in Ontario and like UK as well, I believe. So it's just it's because of these issues, right? And know your client is something that like these governments and authorities try to push even on crypto exchanges. So yeah, I thought I'd mention this, but yeah, and I also sorry, go ahead, Deepak. You got something?
Yeah, no, I just before you go ahead, I just wanted to mention like that's the whole thing behind cryptocurrencies as well, right? Like they don't want it to be decentralized so that like, you really don't know the identity of who's transferring what currency where, right? So I mean, it's interesting because there is more regulation, even though the whole point of cryptocurrency is to have a deregulated sort of exchange, right? And then it's also interesting to see the impact sort of have on certain privacy coins, like a Monero, for example, right? So it's just like we're still in the early stages. As much as everyone thinks like they've missed the run up or whatever, like they're behind the eight ball. Like really, like we're really at the very start of this. So we still don't know how it's going to be handled, right? And I know the government's working on their own stable coins, for example. They're cracking down on Tether. There's just so many different things that are in motion right now. This is just one of them. So again, sorry to interrupt you, Syed.
No, it's all good.
No thoughts there.
No worries. Yeah, like, those are great points you mentioned. And once again, like you said, it's just completely new. And for those of you that are looking to get into crypto and think it's too late, just like Deepak mentioned, it's not too late. It's just the beginning. We have a future ahead. We don't know what's going to happen, how the governments are going to crack down on this. But crypto is the future, and we'll see how governments handle these. And know your client is going to be a big part of it. But yeah, we'll stay on crypto though, and I wanted to talk about China again, and we talked about this a lot. But Bitcoin mining, I know Deepak, you mentioned this in your previous segment about Bitcoin mining and taxes, but I wanted to talk about China. And we mentioned before how China is basically first number one is that like right now currently like around 80% of all Bitcoin miners are in China, but now China is basically shutting down these Bitcoin miners and like cracking down on them. And not letting them mine Bitcoin. So these miners are trying to move somewhere else. They're trying to move to another location, and Taiwan is also included in this. And there's an article that came on July 30th, and it's basically saying that these miners are moving. They're eyeing Paraguay. So it basically like these Chinese BTC miners are reporting preparing to flock to Paraguay, with reports claiming that there could be 500,000 rigs online in the nation in the next 3 years if regulators do not block miners' progress. With some industrial players already setting up shop in the South American nation. So at least 8 Chinese financial entities have expressed a strong interest in transferring their mining operations to Paraguay, according to the Paraguayan mining firm Digital Assets CEO. So that's in the article, and I just referred to that. And then, in addition to mainland Chinese miners, there's large miners from other regions that are also interested in relocating to Paraguay, with some from Taiwan. were particularly keen. And yeah, this article goes on that, and like it also says that how many international observers claim to have been underwhelmed by the bill, which was co-authored by digital assets. Some in the Paraguay-based crypto community are cautiously optimistic that it's relatively conservative nature might at least give policymakers pause for thought. So and then for its part, like the Taiwanese embassy in Paraguay wrote that it's been talking about BTC with digital assets and has spoken about a new business strategy that will generate more opportunities and becoming more and more established in Paraguay. So yeah, this article is interesting, and you should definitely read more if you're because like we mentioned, right, like crypto is the future, and like Bitcoin is the leader of the pack right now. And just for our viewers that aren't keeping track, I'll briefly explain it. So China is cracking down on these crypto miners, right? So what's happening is that the hash rate of Bitcoin, when they stop mining, the hash rate of Bitcoin declines, and that means that the amount of Bitcoins there are, that also declines, and that means that the price is going to be heavily impacted by this, right? Because it's kind of like a supply and demand thing, right? There's demand for Bitcoin, but it's not being mined. So the question that often people pose is that, is Bitcoin really decentralized if China controls 80% of Bitcoin mining? Now with China, and I kind of call this a blessing in disguise, because with China cracking down on these Bitcoin miners, it allows them to move out of China and go to countries such as Paraguay. And once they move out of China and settle their rigs, their mining rigs in Paraguay or other nations, then Bitcoin hash rates will go up, and we could very well see a rise in Bitcoin prices because there'll be a steady supply. So yeah, that's what I got out of this article. But yeah, feel free to read more, and if you have any questions or any of that nature, feel free to ask us. But yeah, that wraps up my crypto update for this weekend. We'll have more for you, as there's always something new in crypto every single minute. So yeah, we'll have that covered for you. All right, so moving on to our last segment for this week's episode, we're gonna recap our stock picks from our previous episode, which was 2 weeks ago, and then we're gonna give new stock picks for the upcoming trading week. So I believe Deepak, McDonald's was your stock pick from last episode, so go for it.
Yeah, so last episode I had two stock picks, the first one being McDonald's and the second one was Pfizer. Kicking things off with McDonald's here. Really, over the last 5 trading days, it was pretty stagnant, around 0.3% gain overall, so not much there. But really, when we look at the 1 month chart, we see that it still gained about 4% over the course of the past month. And really, when I made the pick to purchase McDonald's, it actually had that dip into the 220s range. That was, I think, towards like around July 20th, around then. You can probably see that on this chart, July 19th, actually.
Yep.
So within that period of time, since then, it's up actually around 6%. So again, with a company like McDonald's, it doesn't really move that much for good reason. But whenever you see a dip in a stock that's as strong as McDonald's, it's always a good opportunity to buy. And if you did buy that dip on McDonald's, you were handsomely rewarded for that. So that was the first one. And then second one is Pfizer. So just looking at Pfizer again, the last 5 days, it really gained about 3%, just under 3%. So still healthy gains over the course of a week. But for the past month, really, it's up close to almost 8%. So really, at the start of July, it was around $39.70 or so, and now it's pushing about $43. And one of the reasons why I actually picked Pfizer is because we're actually looking at, you can see Delta really spreading like wildfire throughout the state, and you see really cases in Canada as well are starting to creep back up a little bit. Obviously, nothing to be concerned with right now, but it's still in the uptrend. And I think that's resuming heading into the fall. So again, if we are in a situation where cases continue to skyrocket, we very well could be in a position where Pfizer turns around and says, "Hey, you actually do need your booster shot." And as you know, with these vaccines, they provide significant revenue for these companies. So Pfizer would be a big beneficiary of that. So definitely keep this stock in the back of your mind when you're looking to buy it.
For sure, yeah. Booster shots may be a thing in the very near future as COVID cases with the Delta variant is rising. Moving on to my stock picks from last episode, I chose Visa, and one of the reasons I chose Visa was because of their crypto news that was coming up. Just looking at their chart though, just wanted to show you. This is a long-term play for me, but thought I'd just show the charts and show you guys how it did. So it did have a low point of 240. Sorry, not two. This was the second lowest point. Its actual lowest point was at the beginning of the month. We were sitting at 235, and then its highest point was at 250, which was a few days ago in the past trading week. And then it went down to 246, and then went up to 247. It's currently sitting around 246. This again is a long-term play for me. Visa is, and like we mentioned in the previous episode, right, with Wells Fargo's banning or getting rid of, I should say, line of credits, right? Visa is somewhere that people would go, right, to get loans and stuff. So that, and then plus the crypto news and rumors that surround Visa, I think it's a great long-term hold, and I am definitely holding on to it for the near future. And then moving on to this week's stock pick. So I'll go over my stock pick for this upcoming trading week real quick. It's Apple. So no surprise with Apple. It's not a 1 week pick or anything, or like a short term pick. The reason why I'm mentioning Apple right now is because around the fall. So I'm thinking like mid-September, late September, early October, they do release their new products. So their new iPhone coming out, their new iOS coming out. So right now might be a great time to buy in. It is August 1st. There's roughly, I would say, around 6 to 8 weeks until their new products get announced or get rolled out. And right now might be a good time to buy because Apple always makes good products, and I feel like the iPhone 13 is going to be a really, really good product. So that could result in the stock price going higher, right? So that's why it's August already. So maybe if you don't have a position in Apple, and again, non-financial advice, maybe consider getting a position in it. And as we know, it's Apple, right? It's a great long-term thing. And in the future, who knows, they might step into the EV industry as well. So yeah, with those catalysts in mind, Apple should definitely be on your watch list, not only for this week, but for the foreseeable future ahead. And Deepak, I'm going to swing it back to you for your stock pick for this coming trading week.
Yeah, thanks, Syed. So my actual stock pick for this week is Tesla. There's really two factors for this. So Tesla's top line, actually, revenue for the quarter landed at $12 billion, which came in ahead of the $11.4 billion that was expected. EPS of $1.45 per share also beats Wall Street's 94 cents a share call. And as for automotive gross margins, Tesla posted a strong 25.8%. Comparing to analysts' expectations of 23.1%. So really, the fundamentals are there, and also the fact that really over the last 6 months, Tesla's been down about 21%, which is quite significant for any company that's really listed on the S&P 500. So again, keep your eye out on this one. EVs probably are going to get hot again at some point, being led obviously by Tesla. And really, I think one of the other things that really goes unnoticed is I feel like crypto and Tesla have this weird correlation, possibly because Tesla holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet and that drives a lot of the profits. But it seems like last year the joke was if you just bought Tesla and Bitcoin, you would have made a lot of money, right? So yeah. I feel like there is some correlation there, I think, in my opinion. So again, if you're expecting a bounce in crypto, maybe you look at Tesla as well, right? So again, not financial advice, pure speculation. But again, Tesla is something that I'm keeping on my watch list for sure. And August has historically been a pretty good month for it as well. If you look over the last 9 years, I think the last 9 years, like 6 or 7 of them have been positive for Tesla. So the historical trend is there. The crypto sympathy play, I guess you can say, is also there. Fundamentals are also there. So there's a lot of things going for it. Keep an eye out on it and have it on your radar.
And sure. Elon Musk is also there too. So that,
Elon.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So again, depending on who you are, this could be a swing trade or a long-term hold, but there are a lot of factors at play here, so keep those in mind.
All right, so that wraps up a weekly episode 27 of the bottom line. 28, excuse
28.
me. Yeah, I lost track of episodes there. We have reached 28 episodes now, and all thanks to you guys, because you guys are showing us all the love and support on our social medias, on YouTube, and obviously when you stream our podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and be sure to keep following us on our social media for the latest updates. I myself, Syed, and my co-host Deepak would like to thank you once again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.